Boundaries are not barriers, they are self-respect. This is a truth that many of us struggle to fully embrace, often mistaking boundaries for walls that isolate us from others. But boundaries are not about shutting people out, they are about protecting what is sacred within us. They are the invisible lines that define where we end and where someone else begins, ensuring that our emotional, mental, and physical well-being remain intact. Many of us grow up believing that saying no is selfish. We are taught to be accommodating, to keep the peace, to prioritize the feelings of others, even at the cost of our own discomfort. We learn that being nice often means being agreeable, even when we are hurt, drained, or disrespected. But when we live without boundaries, we live without self-respect. We allow others to dictate our energy, our time, and even our worth. Without boundaries, we become available to anyone at any time, stretching ourselves thin in the name of love, loyalty, or obligation. It can be uncomfortable to set boundaries, especially if you have spent a lifetime prioritizing the needs of others over your own. The first time you say, "I won't tolerate this," you might feel guilt gnawing at you. You might hear voices in your head telling you that you are being too harsh, too cold, too rigid. The people who benefited from your lack of boundaries may even push back, calling you difficult or selfish. But here's the truth: people who truly love and respect you will honor your boundaries. Those who don't are the ones who benefited from your lack of them. Boundaries are not meant to punish others, they are meant to protect you. They are not walls designed to keep people out, but guidelines to ensure that those who enter your space do so with care. Healthy boundaries allow relationships to flourish because they are built on mutual respect rather than silent resentment. Without boundaries, even the closest relationships can become toxic. You find yourself saying yes when you want to say no, showing up when you are exhausted, forgiving the same hurt over and over again because you are afraid of losing someone. But a relationship that requires the abandonment of your own needs is not a healthy relationship. It is a transaction, one where your worth is dependent on your ability to endure. One of the hardest lessons to learn is that setting boundaries might cost you people. When you finally draw the line, there will be those who push back, who try to guilt you into bending, who suddenly feel entitled to explanations for why you are no longer as accessible as you once were. But losing people who do not respect your boundaries is not a loss, it is a clearing. It makes space for the kind of connections that honor you rather than deplete you. Boundaries exist in every part of life. In friendships, they mean recognizing when you are always the one reaching out, always the one giving more. In relationships, they mean knowing the difference between compromise and self-sacrifice. In family dynamics, they mean understanding that shared blood does not give someone unlimited access to your emotions or choices. In the workplace, they mean standing firm in your value and refusing to be overworked or undervalued. Setting boundaries is an act of self-love. It is a declaration that your time, energy, and emotional well-being matter just as much as anyone else's. It is the recognition that you do not have to be everything for everyone at the expense of yourself. It is choosing to walk away from conversations that drain you, from relationships that hurt you, and from situations that diminish you. It is the realization that you are allowed to put yourself first, not because you don't care about others, but because you finally care about yourself. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. We're taught that to truly forgive someone, we must welcome them back into our lives, extend an olive branch, and restore the relationship to what it once was. But that is not what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is not about letting someone back in. It is not about granting them another chance to hurt us. Forgiveness is about freeing ourselves from the burden of resentment, anger, and pain. It is about choosing peace for ourselves, not reconciliation with the person who caused the harm. There is a difference between forgiving someone and allowing them to return to the same space in your life. Forgiveness is an internal process, a choice we make to release the grip that pain has on us. Reconnection, however, is an external action, one that requires trust, accountability, and genuine change. Too often, people assume that forgiveness must come with a second chance, but that is not the case. You can forgive someone and still choose to walk away. You can forgive someone and still decide that they no longer have a place in your world. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. Holding on to resentment is like carrying a heavy weight that only harms the person holding it. It does not teach the other person a lesson. It does not undo the damage that has been done. It only keeps you tied to the pain. Choosing to forgive is choosing to release that weight, to no longer allow the past to define your present. But releasing the resentment does not mean you have to welcome the person back with open arms. Forgiveness does not erase what happened. It does not undo the betrayal, the lies, the hurt. It simply means you refuse to let those things have power over you anymore. Reconnection requires something that forgiveness does not trust. Trust is not automatic, and it is not something that can be demanded. It must be earned through consistent actions, accountability, and a willingness to acknowledge the harm that was done. Just because someone apologizes does not mean they have changed. Just because someone expresses regret does not mean they are entitled to a place in your life again. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting, and it does not mean pretending that things can go back to the way they were. It means you acknowledge what happened, you process the pain, and you choose to move forward, not necessarily with them, but for yourself. Some people will try to convince you that true forgiveness means reconciliation. They will tell you that holding boundaries is a sign that you are still holding on to the past, that refusing to let someone back in means you have not really let go. But setting boundaries is not a sign of unforgiveness, it is a sign of self-respect. You can wish someone well without allowing them to have access to you. You can want the best for them without inviting them back into your space. There are people who will never truly understand the harm they caused. There are people who will never take responsibility, who will never offer the kind of accountability that would make reconnection even a possibility. And that is okay. You do not need their understanding to heal. You do not need their remorse to move forward. Forgiveness is something you give to yourself, not to them. It is the quiet decision to no longer carry the weight of what they did. It is the recognition that you deserve peace, even if they never acknowledge the hurt they caused. Forgiving someone does not mean you owe them your presence. It does not mean you owe them an opportunity to hurt you again. You are allowed to forgive and walk away. You are allowed to release the pain while keeping the boundary. You are allowed to move on without reopening a door that was closed for a reason. There is a common belief, often unspoken but deeply ingrained, that love means fixing. That to love someone is to carry their burdens, to heal their wounds, and to make up for the damage that others have done to them. We are taught that patience, compassion, and sacrifice are the highest forms of love. That if we just love hard enough, wait long enough, and endure enough, we can heal someone who is hurting. But love is not a hospital, and you are not a rehabilitation center for someone else's brokenness. There is nothing wrong with loving people who have been hurt. There is nothing wrong with supporting someone through their healing journey. We all carry wounds, and we all need love and support to work through them. But there is a difference between standing beside someone as they heal and becoming responsible for their healing. The moment you begin to sacrifice your own well-being, your own peace, and your own sense of self for the sake of fixing someone else, love turns into a burden. Many people find themselves in relationships, romantic, familial, or platonic, where they take on the role of healer, caretaker, and emotional crutch. They convince themselves that if they can just be patient enough, kind enough, forgiving enough, they will finally help the other person become whole. They believe that if they leave, if they step away, that person will fall apart. And so they stay, even when it hurts, even when they are drained, even when they have lost themselves in the process. But the truth is, no amount of love can fix someone who refuses to do the work themselves. You cannot save someone from their own demons. You cannot love them into wholeness. Healing is an inside job, one that requires personal responsibility, self-awareness, and a willingness to change. You can hold space for someone's pain, but you cannot carry it for them. You can offer support, but you cannot be the solution. People who are deeply broken often look for others to absorb their pain. They mistake love for dependence. They mistake devotion for endurance. They take and take, never realizing the toll it is taking on the one who is constantly giving. And the one who is giving convinces themselves that this is what love is, that love means sacrifice, that love means proving yourself by enduring pain. But love should never require the abandonment of yourself. There is a pattern that often emerges in these dynamics. The giver becomes exhausted, depleted, resentful. They have given so much of themselves that they no longer recognize who they are without the role of caretaker. And yet, the person they've been trying to fix has not truly changed, because real change cannot be forced. Real healing cannot be done on someone else's behalf. And so the cycle continues until the reader realizes that love is not meant to be a one-sided act of service. Stepping away from someone's brokenness does not mean you don't care. It does not mean you are abandoning them. It means you are acknowledging that their healing is not your responsibility. It means you are recognizing that love should never be an act of self-sacrifice. It means understanding that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let go. You deserve relationships that are built on mutual respect, not on the expectation that you will fix, heal, or complete someone else. You deserve love that does not drain you. You deserve to be with people who take responsibility for their own healing, rather than expecting you to do it for them. A love should be a partnership, not a project. And you are not required to carry what was never yours to hold. Trust is one of the most valuable things we can offer or receive, yet it is often misunderstood. Many people believe that trust should be given freely, that to withhold it is to be guarded, difficult, or even unkind. But trust is not something that can be demanded, nor is it something that should be given simply because someone asked for it. Trust is earned, not owed. It is built through consistency, honesty, and actions that align with words. It is not an automatic gift that comes with love, friendship, or family ties. It is something that must be nurtured, protected, and proven over time. Too often, people feel pressured into trusting someone because of societal expectations. We are told that if someone apologizes, we should move forward. If someone says they have changed, we should believe them. If someone is close to us, a parent, a partner, a friend, we should extend trust simply because of the role they play in our lives. But trust is not about titles or history. It is not about who someone is supposed to be in your life. It is about who they show themselves to be through their actions. Trust is built in small, consistent moments. It is in the way someone keeps their promises and how they handle your vulnerability and whether they show up when they say they will. It is in the way they respond when they hurt you. Do they take accountability or do they shift the blame? Do they acknowledge the impact of their actions or do they dismiss your feelings? Trust is not just about honesty. It is about reliability, integrity, and emotional safety. The mistake many people make is assuming that forgiveness and trust are the same. They are not. You can forgive someone and still not trust them. You can release resentment, let go of the past, and wish someone well without ever allowing them back into a position where they can hurt you again. Forgiveness is about you, about freeing yourself from bitterness. Trust, on the other hand, is about them. It is about what they have done to prove that they deserve another chance. When someone has broken your trust, it is not your responsibility to rebuild it for them. It is theirs. They do not get to dictate how long it takes, and they do not get to decide that you should trust them just because they say they have changed. Real change is shown, not spoken. If someone is truly remorseful, they will understand that trust must be rebuilt slowly through actions, not words. If they try to rush you, guilt you, or make you feel unreasonable for needing time, then they are not truly committed to change. They are committed to convenience. There are people who will make you feel guilty for not trusting them, as if your hesitation is a flaw rather than a response to their action. They will tell you that you are being too guarded, that you are holding on to the past, that you need to move on. But moving on does not mean ignoring reality. It does not mean placing yourself in the same situation that hurt you before. You are allowed to set boundaries. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to decide that some people have lost the privilege of your trust. Trust, once broken, is never the same. It can be rebuilt, but it will always carry the scars of what happened before. And sometimes the healthiest choice is to recognize that some people are simply not trustworthy, no matter how much you may want them to be. It is not your job to convince yourself to trust someone who has repeatedly shown you why you shouldn't. Trust is not about hope. It is about evidence. It is about what has been consistently demonstrated over time. No one is entitled to your trust. Not because they say the right words, not because they want a second chance, not because they don't like the consequences of their actions. Trust is a privilege, not a right. And the only people who deserve it are the ones who are willing to earn it. Healing is often treated as something secondary, something that can be postponed, something that should wait until everyone else is taken care of. Many people are conditioned to believe that prioritizing their healing is selfish. That is their responsibility to remain available, accommodating, and understanding no matter how much they are hurting. But healing is not a luxury. It is not something that can be put on hold indefinitely. It is a necessity, and it must come first. When you are constantly prioritizing others over yourself, when you are always making sure that everyone else is comfortable, you slowly begin to disappear in your own life. You push down your pain, telling yourself that it is not the right time to deal with it, that other people's needs are more important, that you can wait. But the truth is, the longer you ignore your healing, the more it seeps into everything you do. Unhealed wounds do not stay silent. They show up in the way you speak to yourself, in the relationships you choose, in the way you handle stress, in the way you allow others to treat you. Ignoring your healing does not make the pain go away. It only makes it manifest in ways that are harder to recognize. Many people believe that healing should be a quiet process, that it should happen behind closed doors without disrupting anyone else. They think that if they just keep going, keep working, keep pretending to be okay, eventually they will be. But healing is not passive. It does not happen by accident. It requires intention, effort, and a willingness to sit with discomfort. It requires looking at your pain honestly and allowing yourself to process it instead of suppressing it. It means unlearning patterns that no longer serve you, releasing what is toxic, and making choices that support your well-being. Even when those choices are difficult, healing often requires stepping back from people who do not respect your boundaries. It means choosing yourself even when others expect you to prioritize them. It means understanding that you are not obligated to maintain relationships that drain you. That just because someone has been in your life for a long time does not mean they deserve access to you forever. It means recognizing that not everyone will understand your need to heal, and that's okay. Healing is not about making others comfortable. It is about reclaiming your peace. There will always be people who tell you that you are overreacting, that you should let things go, that you should move on without doing the work. But true healing is not about pretending you are fine. It is about acknowledging where you are, feeling what you need to feel, and taking the steps necessary to care for yourself. It is about giving yourself permission to rest, to grieve, to release, and to grow. It is about recognizing that your pain is valid, that what you went through mattered, and that you deserve to come out of it whole. Healing also requires patience. There is no timeline, no checklist, no deadline. Some days you will feel like you are making progress. Other days, the pain might feel just as heavy as it did in the beginning. That does not mean you are failing. Healing is not a straight line. It is a process of unraveling, of rediscovering, of learning how to exist without carrying the weight of the past on your shoulders. It is about allowing yourself to move forward in your own time without pressure or expectation. You are not required to justify your healing to anyone. You do not need to explain why you need space, why you are choosing to set boundaries, why you are prioritizing yourself for the first time in a long time. Your healing is yours and it matters. The people who truly care about you will understand that. The people who don't were never invested in your well-being to begin with. Letting go is one of the hardest things to do, not because we don't know how, but because we have been taught that holding on is a sign of strength. We are told that perseverance is noble, that commitment is everything, That walking away means we have failed, but letting go is not the same as giving up. It is not weakness, it is not surrender, and it is not an admission of defeat. Letting go is an act of courage, a conscious decision to release what no longer serves you so that you can make room for what does. There is a difference between persistence and self-betrayal. Many people stay in relationships, jobs, or situations long past their expiration date because they are afraid that leaving means they didn't try hard enough. They convince themselves that if they can just be more patient, more forgiving, more willing to endure, things will eventually change. But sometimes the strongest thing you can do is recognize that something is no longer meant for you. Holding on does not always fix what is broken. Sometimes it only prolongs the pain. Letting go requires an honest look at what is real rather than what we wish could be. It means accepting that love is not always enough to make a relationship work, that effort does not always lead to success, that some things are meant to be temporary. It means understanding that just because something once brought you joy does not mean it always will. It requires the ability to separate hope from reality, to recognize when staying is doing more harm than good. Many people equate letting go with failure because they see it as giving up on something they once believed in. But letting go is not about giving up. It is about making a choice. It is about choosing yourself over what is breaking you. It is about choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and freedom over attachment. It is about recognizing that your worth is not tied to how much you can endure. There is grief in letting go. Even when you know it is the right thing to do, it can feel like losing a part of yourself. You mourn not just the person, job, or situation you are leaving behind, but also the version of you that held on for so long. You grieve the time, the energy, the love you poured into something that no longer fits. But grief does not mean you made the wrong choice. It simply means you cared. Letting go also means surrendering control. It means accepting that you cannot force people to be who you want them to be, that you cannot make someone love you the way you need to be loved, that you cannot always predict or change outcomes. It is about trusting that whatever is meant for you will not require you to fight for your own worth. It is about releasing the belief that things have to go a certain way in order for you to be okay. One of the greatest misconceptions about letting go is that it means you stop caring. But you can let go of a person and still love them. You can let go of a dream and still cherish the idea of what could have been. You can let go of a past version of yourself and still honor the journey that brought you to where you are now. Letting go does not mean forgetting or erasing. It means freeing yourself from the weight of what is no longer meant to be carried. There is strength in walking away from what no longer nourishes you. There is power in choosing to stop fighting battles that were never yours to win. There is healing in releasing the need to prove your worth to people who refuse to see it. Letting go is not giving up. It is giving yourself permission to move forward. Letting go, prioritizing your healing, setting boundaries, and understanding that trust is earned, not owed, are all acts of self-respect. They are not signs of weakness, but of growth, self-awareness, and strength. Forgiveness does not require reconnection, just as love does not require self-sacrifice. You are not responsible for fixing others, nor are you obligated to hold on to relationships that drain you. Choosing yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. Healing is not a passive process, and it does not require validation from anyone else. True peace comes from recognizing what no longer serves you and having the courage to release it. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to protect your space. You are allowed to demand more from the people in your life. And above all, you are allowed to put yourself first without apology.